Well, by the time you're watching this video, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, and I've got some special treats with me to celebrate, but I'm not doing this alone. Welcome, the certified sommelier of the channel, Dave Graydon. Dave, thanks for coming back here. And we are trying something really special here. It's limited edition WWE wines named after The Undertaker and The Ultimate Warrior. Now, you told me the last time you were here, we were reviewing the Chris Jericho, a little bit of the bubbly, and you told me that, you know, guys of the Warrior was more your wheelhouse. Did you ever expect, as a kid, you'd one day be tasting some Ultimate Warrior wine?
Not in my wildest dreams.
These both come from E2 Family Winery out of Lodi, California. Though, if you read the back of the Ultimate Warrior bottle, it says these grapes come from parts unknown. So now we know where parts unknown is. Somewhere in wine country, in Napa Valley. So I see there's a Zinfandel and there's a Cabernet Sauvignon. I know the grapes are obviously different, but why don't you explain to me and everyone else who might not know, like, what makes each wine different?
So the Cabernet Sauvignon and Zinfandel are what we call varietals. So those are the two different varietals that mainly grow in California for red wines. Cabernet Sauvignon being the biggest, the boldest, probably one of the more popular. Zinfandel, little different profile, little different fruit structure.
The question I have is like what you would pair each of these with. Is it different foods for the different types, or is there a bit of overlap?
There's a little bit of overlap. They're both red, obviously, so doing something meat, but then depending on the sauce and the style of meat and the fat content. Cabernet Sauvignon with the higher tannin structure, tannins really like fat. So a nice New York steak, something juicy, a little bit fatty, those tannins do really well, and they complement each other. So the fat softens the tannins, and the tannins kind of bring out the flavor and soften the fat a little bit as well. Okay. And then the Zinfandel, a little bit more what we call red fruit and spice. And those go really well with anything barbecued, anything off the grill, some nice ribs, something along those lines.
For 3 decades, The Undertaker has loomed over the WWE landscape like a menacing shadow. His dark and hollowed path has consumed the souls of the righteous and evildoers alike. Doesn't this make you want to just crack open a bottle of this?
These are a little harder to get through, but they look really pretty on the shelf.
Yes, they look pretty, and they're also great theft deterrents, because you'll know if someone's gotten into it beforehand. Now, Dave, in a case like this where the cork does break, what do you guys usually do to fix it? You just push the rest of the cork through and fish it out later, or what's the protocol here?
No, we'll always save it, and that's usually where a little bit better tool of the trade comes in.
Sorry. Let's do it. Cheers. To me, it's wine, but Dave, I'm sure you've got something more knowledgeable to say about it.
Sure. So with the red wines, we give a little swirl, sniff, smell that bouquet. Kind of similar to what we did with the bubbly. So when we first sniff, we definitely smell that fruit. It's California all the way. Lodi is one of the hotter regions, as well as a big producer. So in all of California, maybe 4% of the grapes come from Napa Valley. So these are definitely softer, more smooth, integrated tannins. Okay. It's pretty easy drink for Cabernet. It's not going to offend anyone, that's for sure. But it's craving some steak.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of Cabernets, where would you rank this?
It's kind of a loaded question. For me, it's always mood, food, and attitude. Okay. And comparing this to other California wines, I'd put it at a solid 7. I mean, it's got some nice body and structure. We're always looking for 3 dimensions, just like a good story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So you get a little bouquet on the nose, it has some character and nuance to the body, and then the finish kind of long and lingering and hangs in there.
So I'm looking at the info card here that came with the wines, and for the Zinfandel it says 80% Zinfandel, 20% Sangiovese. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Is there an importance to that? Like, what's the difference between the two? Why is there a blend? Does that make it better or worse?
Better or worse depending on what your preference is.
Okay.
We talked about in the sparkling, no 2 things, what you like and what you don't. They're blending to taste. Basically, they want a specific style or taste, something they have in mind. So they know it's going to be predominantly Zinfandel, and in this case the Sangiovese is acting as a seasoning and a structure. Each varietal carries a different level of acidity. So now this one we're finding has a little tap.
Oh, well, that's helpful. I'm glad we figured that out.
That was a little buried in there.
Look at that cork there. Of course, you gotta have the branding. And in case you don't know you're drinking a wrestling wine, here's the first thing you see when you look down at the cork. Get that sucker out there. That cork is selling worse than the Warrior ever did. Always believe. Ultimate Warrior, baby. This Hall of Fame on the side. That's pretty cool. Like, you know, that makes it kind of a collector's item, I think. We didn't see what the Undertaker cork looked like. It's kind of beat up, but what's on the side of that one? Dead Man Forever. I'm trying to piece this back together. You can see Undertaker 30. You know, whatever. I'm not trying to resell this.
You can see that red color.
Yeah, I can
definitely different than the cap.
Definitely different. Yeah, a little bit lighter. So You know, even as ignorant as I am about wines, I can definitely tell a difference between the Cabernet and the Zinfandel.
A little bit lighter, like you said. Softer tannins, you won't get it so much on the jaw. You feel it a little more on the front of your mouth, and that's the acidity.
Yes, definitely feel that.
A little brighter, little touch of spice, like that, what we call baking spice, cinnamon, those kind of sweeter spices.
One thing I like about the label here is the little tiny warrior faces. I don't know if you can make that out. That's a nice touch.
Definitely a unique bottle size and shape for red wines.
Really?
Typically you see red wines in the taller, thinner, what they call shouldered bottles.
Yeah, because this one's also different than a traditional wine bottle as well. This looks like something you'd see it for like a bourbon or something.
Absolutely.
I think. Of course, this wine definitely has the most distrucity out of any of the wines I've tasted before. And no grave can hold him, no God will claim him, and no devil will have him. WWEWines.com. Okay, now I know you said giving it a rating is a loaded question, but you did rate this one, so I have to ask you, out of 1 out of 10, how would you rate this Zinfandel?
It's solid, it's drinkable, it's definitely more fruit forward style, which California tends to be. I like my Zins to be a little more restrained and a touch spicier and a little bit more nuanced, but I would still put it in that 6.5, you know, just under 7. I do like the cab a little better. I think the cab is a more solid structure. The Zin is definitely drinkable. I would not lay this down much longer than laying it down in the front seat of the car on your way home.
Well, that's good. It's very appropriate because Ultimate Warrior very rarely laid down in his career for anybody. Well, Dave, thank you so much for stopping by and helping me taste these wines. What classic wrestler, off the top of your head, would you love to see immortalized in a bottle of wine, Dave?
Oh, I'd like to see a big magnum of Andre the Giant.
Oh, yes, that would be so appropriate. For Mr. Dave Graydon, I'm Brian Zane. I'll see you next time.